Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 12 of the Next Project Conversations. As you know, this is a place in a forum, not that we have all the answers, but we're asking the difficult questions about faith and technology and how are we going to move forward in this new time. What I want to do is invite a very special guest that we have today, Denisha Delane. She is the proprietor of Faith in the Bay, which I consider one of the best faith-based organizations in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley area. They manage to match activism along with technology, along with an understanding of the African-American church that a lot of people don't share. So Denisha, how are you doing today?
Hey, Pastor Coloma, how are you? Doing well?
I am doing good. I'm doing good. Okay, can you just tell us a little bit about how you started Faith in the Bay, what Faith in the Bay is? We have people that are watching this from all over the country, so they don't, they're not in the Bay Area, so they don't know what Faith in the Bay is. But I'd love for you to share a little bit about what that is and how it impacts others.
Cool. Well, a little over 11 or 12 years ago, I was, I'm different. I'm in Berkeley. I love justice, raised in the church my entire life, and was learning at that time as somebody who was a content creator, like what we consider today's content creator. I was the newsletter editor at my church. I worked on the newspaper in high school, but I was in this interesting space where I wasn't getting news in the traditional way. I still picked up the local church newspaper that came out weekly, right?
Okay.
The local print weekly. I was plugged into things, but there was something that was new and that was happening. And I was like, well, what about the other stuff? We need something that's intersectional so that I could still be my justice self, my Jesus self, and my techie self. And so I thought I was going to create a print guide, like a little faith. I wanted it to be a little bit bigger than Jet, but just about the right size that it fit in your purse. And I printed that thing. I think I was printing like 1,500 copies.
Wow.
Then I was growing to like 3,000, and I was printing it out of pocket.
Oh, wow. And what did the end user pay for this?
It was free. I was dropping it off at churches.
Okay.
And I was begging people to submit content.
Okay. And how did it come to a website and like the music coverage and the social justice coverage?
When I couldn't afford it anymore. So when I couldn't afford it anymore, but I was building a website at the same time. And so I started out with a Joomla-based site because I knew going in that content management was going to be key. I thought the two were going to dovetail and complement each other. But because print didn't make sense in 2009, 2010, everything, just all of my energy went into digital. And then I was getting opportunities to do things where people wanted me to distribute stuff. So it was election stuff. It was census stuff. It was a lot of stuff going on. And people were like, hey, can you distribute 10,000 pieces of lit? Yeah, I can get in this thing. And I could, so there was always a need to distribute stuff at churches. I just wanted to make sure it was also informational. So it ended up going digital. But it was another way for me to kind of quickly make sure that we could still spread information. And then also the really smart thing is that I had started, now this is, I don't ever talk about this, so thank you for the opportunity. Before I had Faith in the Bay, I had a website for about 4 years called Revive the Vote. Because again, remember, I'm churchy, I'm Jesus, I'm justice. And so I had a website called Revive the Vote, and I would send emails that included political and civic engagement opportunities that were national in scope, and send it to this mailing list that I had of a few hundred people, of allies and friends. And Revive the Vote's mailing list became what Faith in the Bay is today, because I needed it to be bigger than elections. It needed to also talk about health and talk about other things. So, yeah.
So how many people access Faith in the Bay now? Like I think it's the central hub for the Black church in the Bay Area, is my opinion.
Yeah.
I might be wrong, but how many people do see Faith in the Bay at this moment?
So the web stuff is what I'm really digging into these days, looking at the analytics. How many people are we touching? We still get upwards of 15,000 to 20,000 views on our site a month. And that's with no current content, right? Because with COVID going on and other stuff, and And my day job, I don't write like I used to, but I've always maintained the calendar to a certain degree. But people are still looking for things and finding. So if somebody's looking for a local church, they're going to end up at my site, because at some point, the content I probably have more content on my site related to that congregation than they do, because their site, right? Because their site may not be current or may not use certain search engine optimization, which is a thing now. But for me, it was just like, I might have 5 or 6 things about you, and when people are looking for you, they're going to find my site.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me, what, you've been in the game since 2009, when people couldn't even like put a website or a Facebook page, or Facebook group didn't exist, or SEO wasn't like a real term, or hyper local wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
And you are deeply rooted in the Black church. That's why I love talking to you, because you understand the rural element, because a lot of folks in our area came from Louisiana, Arkansas, Alabama, really great hard workers, but we're not part of the technology boom. They're more of the military industrial complex. What have you seen since 2009? What are the trends? What are the positives, negatives? And then we could talk a little bit about what are we seeing right now. So what are the long-term trends that you've seen?
I think some of the trends that have happened is there's been this shift, and this shift has happened online and has also happened physically. Is that there's been this shift from identifying leaders or key personalities and building things around those personalities, and then now this shift to, are we building around the culture of the church and around the culture of the community? And I think back in 2008 and back in 2009, when things were social, and social was just kind of, folks had to have a .edu to get into a Facebook account. I remember when I didn't have a school email account, I didn't finish college, and I had an invitation from a friend to get onto Facebook, and when Instagram really took off. And so it was so much about us individually that now I think it's about the bigger structure and about the culture of what is happening in the church. Is your church a family church? Is your ministry about family and community? Are you justice oriented? And you'll get the flavor of that based on the culture of what's presented digitally. And sometimes you'll be like, oh, I didn't know that they were even the pastor, because they're so woven into how things go, and and pastors are more accessible. So that's a big thing, I think, from 2008 to now, is also the accessibility of clergy who will comment and engage with folks online, where that may not have been the case 10 years ago.
So here goes a question. Is there a church in the Bay Area you think that's
you gonna get me in trouble?
Really well?
You gonna get me in trouble?
I'm only asking for positives. I'm not asking for negatives.
No. Like, there's so many positives.
But is there one, or if you could pick 3, for whatever the reasons, that you feel have done a great job reaching out and developing stuff, can you just highlight them and tell me what you've seen in the church space that you feel is really cutting through the noise that we're experiencing right now?
I think there's some congregations that are doing interesting things. So let me also be honest in saying that there's some congregations that do really well in social, and they are trying very hard to make sure that their physical matches what's on social. Now, 10 years ago, we were trying to make sure that our social digital presence looked like our congregations. It was the flip, right? It was the flip opposite. So now we're trying very hard to make sure that who we look like online is what you get when you come into that church. And so I do think that there's some congregations that are doing things really well. I've always been excited and have used them as an example for a really long time. I think the name selection that BB Memorial has is brilliant. I think Experience BMC was a smart move, and that was their website name before they were on Instagram. And so that was a brilliant footprint to create, because if you're going to their website, if you're going to their social media accounts, it already establishes that you're going to experience BB Memorial. It's not just the account is BB Memorial Cathedral CME Church. Who wants to go to that place, right? And so that was a smart move.
Dr. Haynes does a phenomenal job. He really.
So I think the branding and the naming matters, and they're really smart when it comes to that. I think Darnell Hammock and folks over at New Life are doing really, really well because they're finding ways to share snippets and video content. And their turnaround is really smart. They're doing that really well. And then there's a congregation in San Francisco that I'd highlight also, Shekinah Christian Fellowship. They've been able to tap into more video and have become very technical, very fast. And so watching their transition and watching the new content that they're coming up with is really fresh and engaging.
Okay, so as somebody that understands the limitation of some of our churches and of the traditionally Black church and understands the landscape, because you've been engaged in this a long time, I am
hiding in here. The gray hairs are in here.
I am Amy Zion Church wherever, and it's now COVID. I want to do something. What would be the first 2 or 3 things you'd recommend to me?
I would encourage, like, if you wanted to jump into the conversation, I would first encourage you to do your research. So what is happening in your area? What content is out there that you can support? So one of the things that I used to teach and train on, I'm telling you, nothing is new. When the scripture says nothing is new under the sun, nothing is new. And so there's some things that used to be standout bullet points for me. And when I was teaching social media 5, 6, 7 years ago, and the first was social media is not solitaire. So if the goal is to get online and become a voice, I think it's also really important to find out who else is already in the choir, right? Who is speaking or talking or engaging around that topic. And you can tap into what they're doing, support it, shout them out, clap, add a comment before you put your first piece out there. People should face, or if there's a particular hashtag that you like, follow that hashtag. See who's using that hashtag. There's people that use the Faith in the Bay hashtag, and it don't have nothing to do with what I'm posting, but I appreciate that the hashtag is now almost its own brand about what's happening regarding Bay Area faith. And so people use it. There's ministries that they use it that I've never seen or never touched.
Wow.
So I would encourage people to do their research. The other thing is, I think that folks need to develop what is that hashtag or content that they will use in their posts so that people can find them, and that their content also doesn't just land at their doorstep, like making sure that they're speaking at a level where they're searchable and findable.
Hey, gotta love the internet. Give us 1 second. We should be patched back in. Hello.
I'm sorry. I don't know what happened.
I don't know. It's interweb, right? It breaks. You were at follow the conversation and make comments, and then you were talking about Faith in the Bay and how people use it and don't even reach out to you.
So there's churches that I've never seen, I've never touched, and the hashtag has value for them. But I was using the Faith in the Bay hashtag years ago when I didn't have a comma in my followers. But I knew that it was important that we continue to post things that were happening with your church, with other churches. It's always been about sharing what's happening with all the churches. So, one, do your research, and then 2, find your community. What are the hashtags? Find 1 or 2 hashtags. Maybe 1 that's related to the community that you're in, and 2, another hashtag that's related to the topic in which you're trying to impact, and find ways to make sure that those are included in your post. And the third thing is that I would make sure that you're sharing with your congregation what you're doing on social. So one of the things that I've been encouraging pastors and clergy and really working on, again, nothing is new under the sun. So when I was telling folks about Constant Contact and about MailChimp, that might have not been their interest 5 or 6 years ago, but it's definitely their interest today. So after your Sunday sermon, are you sending them a quick paragraph with the link to the video if they miss service, and telling them where they can, plug in to post this week on social? And so we have to find ways, as much as we're going live, we have to find ways to still communicate with each other. And all of our members communicate differently. Some are going to tune in because you went live. Some are going to open that email, and some are going to see a tweet. And we've got to figure out whatever that balance is for your congregation, mix it up a little bit.
So if you're watching right now and you have questions, please leave them in the comment box. This is an invaluable resource. I'm telling you, If you're a small church trying to put it together, a medium church, even a large church, there's such nuggets of knowledge right here that please leave the comments, ask questions. We want you to ask questions. Can I ask you, where do you see us going coming out of this? You know, you and I, we were talking last week on the phone, as we invariably do, about like churches reopening. And
all the stuff that got me in trouble last week.
No, I didn't get you in trouble. I think you spoke prophetically, and I don't use that word lightly, because I actually responded to your post where I said we have not mitigated the dangers, but there are people that don't look like us that are rushing back in the building, not looking at the Bible, but looking at rights, which is man-made versus God. And there's a whole theology around that. So right now, I would love to hear, what are you seeing out there? Where do you see us in 6 months?
I think that we are going to find out that there's some churches that are never going to go back to a physical Bible study structure. I've talked to some folks. They have more engagement and more participation from their members in this virtual space. Obviously, we're not going to be going live as much. Eventually, we will be back in congregations. And I think the Sunday streaming is nice. We're going to ease out of that a little bit, a little more and more. And we'll probably see more tent worship. Now, I'm all for tent worship, so the Baptist in me gets excited. Bring on the tents. I want to be
in a lot of parking lots, a lot of tents.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
A lot of outdoor revivals this year.
I'm all for it. Bring a good band and a guitar. I'm right in my groove. But I think that there's some things that we are doing currently that we have to determine when we go back to what we're familiar with. What are we taking with us? Because there's some things that you've created that allow members who have moved away, that allow, like most churches have struggled with, how do we stay engaged with our college students? And when people go into convalescent homes or are sick and shut in. And so now people are able to be plugged in. You can't pull the plug a year from now and say, we ain't doing that no more. We still have, so we have to figure out ways to weave in technology so that members can still feel just as engaged.
Todd Bryan, a good friend of the show, a big supporter, he has a great question. Is anyone doing discipleship online? And if so, how? I think we've seen a lot of talking heads. I know we were watching a Bible study the other night with Ivy, because he does a Bible study. But tell me what your thoughts are. What are you seeing that's really pushing digital discipleship forward?
I think that I found it very interesting that, and I'll take it back to how we were doing things before. When we were streaming before, it was church big, right? It was the whole sanctuary, it was the whole choir. And now that we're streaming, it's become very intimate. It's us in this square, right? It's the pastor or clergy space. It's a personal relationship. But I also think that there's something, and I think this impacts discipleship. I think that being able to see pastors and clergy this way, in a way that allows you to communicate with them, and you're not preaching, and it's not the rhythm of your sermon, and it's not the homiletics, and it's not the hooping, it's not your cadence, but it's your language, your walk and talk. And people are able to connect with folks that they feel have a personal relation, that they're gearing up to a personal relationship. And then what's the follow through on this? So now that we have people who are following you, following others, what is the fellowship that social media provides? If somebody sends you a message in your inbox, are you connecting with them? If somebody says, Pastor, I want prayer, this is not the opportunity to say, I'm gonna have a deacon call you. You have time. Like, there's nothing more than time. And so time is really precious. But we are now seeing that people are being discipled online because the messages are bigger than, and then he got up on the third day, which is my favorite message. But we're talking about mental health. We're talking about, COVID. We're talking about stress reduction and parenting kids. The more that people see pastors and clergy in a very human way, these are church people who were churched at some point or come through church generations. They are finding their way back to connecting to folks. And I think that's a beautiful thing that's happening with discipleship.
So I have a question for you. What I think people are getting fatigued digitally right now. We've done some surveying in my congregation. and some informal stuff. And not that the church is doing digital bad, it's that everybody's doing digital, so you're very fatigued.
Yeah.
What are your recommendations to deal with digital fatigue right now?
I think that we have to begin to integrate. I was having this conversation with someone. I think we need to integrate additional opportunities into our worship experience that are not traditionally a part of our worship experience. So are you offering yoga or stretching? Are there, and maybe this is not the worship Sunday experience, maybe this is midweek Bible study or some other offering, but are you offering opportunities for them to center and ground themselves, to be still together while being motivated and encouraged? What are we doing to introduce healthy wellness tips for them? So that it's more than just, so ministry has to be more than the message. It also has to be practical, practical things that we can digest, and that we're offering more than just talking to them. But maybe I need to see you cut some apples and be in your kitchen making your smoothie and talking about why that's important. I think that as our members see different content, they will, it takes away a little bit of the fatigue. We got to mix it up a little bit. Everybody knows how to do Bible study like this in Sunday sermons. So now, since StreamYard is not new and Zoom is not new and Be Live is not new.
We're going to talk about Zoom next, because I think Zoom is the new false idol, but we'll talk about that.
Okay. Gotcha.
So let's talk about software and partnerships and following trends.
Yes.
I think from a technical perspective, and you and I can get lost in the weeds, and I don't want to go too far.
Right.
I think we were rushing for Easter to build like this rickety structure.
Yeah.
But right now, I think the church needs to enter into a season of discernment and pausing and asking questions about who it partners with, who it gives its money to, who is its distribution network. And I have been personally disappointed with Zoom because they haven't created or made adjustments to their platform in almost 60, 70 days to allow for communication that is a worship or study format. They haven't even allowed for group discussion. They are still a purely business format. As simple as you put it, a conversation that you and I are having is not really possible on that because of the voice sensitivity. They've also had little or no response to the Zoom bombing besides we put a password on it. They haven't apologized. They haven't done anything. And then to think of the thousands of churches that have signed on, and they don't have a church division. They don't even act like they have a guy for the church division.
So, and we don't know that they've been present at all in at past events or activities. I think there were numerous opportunities for them to be engaged, and I think there were attempts, and they might have shown up at a few things. But you see the corporations that pop up at national conventions for different faith-based institutions, and I'd say that tech has been slow to be there. I think that this is a game changer, though. I think that our current setting has been a game changer.
I think there's a couple of people that are doing some really good job. I got to give Nona Jones. I won't give her and Neil and a couple of other folks at Facebook have done a great job.
Yeah.
I won't give the whole organization a shout out.
Right.
I'm gonna give it.
Know that Nona is doing some amazing powerful stretching there. Yeah.
Like even if people don't know who Nona Jones is, she's over the Faith Initiative. Like people like Denisha and myself will send her emails on how live works.
Yeah.
And 3 weeks later, it's changed. So she's been a real advocate for us. But can you talk about platforms and partnerships and long-term stuff? Because I think you said it best in your last comment. The people we're getting in bed with now, we're going to have to partner with long-term. I have some questions around StreamYard, but I'm going to still give them a chance because I think they're doing some interesting things and they're starting to circle back and respond to some church comments. But I'd love to hear what your thoughts are as far as partnering with tech companies.
And I'd also say, I know we're going to talk about StreamYard later, but before I lose the thought, they are one of the few that I see have a live town hall once a week.
Every week.
Every week.
Twice a week.
No, every week.
No, they do it twice a week now,
Okay.
Wednesday and Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because I know I watched the weekend one. I haven't tuned into the weekday one, but I like that they are listening and saying, "Oh, that's a good idea," and you see the quick turnaround, and so that's been powerful. So one of the things that a few years ago, I want to also lift up City of Refuge, because when I was setting up their streaming and their online stuff, and I think it's okay to use this as an example because I love Bishop, she loves me. And so Bishop Flunder has a long-standing congregation, diverse population, but they were operating in a Facebook group. Before I came into the picture, they were operating just in a Facebook group, and that was enough, right? They didn't have an online streaming capacity, and so we put them on YouTube because, one, it was free, and I was like, why are we not using? So that was my goal. I was like, well, every church that calls me about getting online, I'm gonna put them on YouTube because that's where you should be going live. And so I'd still make the case for us missing the opportunity to utilize other platforms when we talk. And this is, I think, what your question is. I think that we're stuck too much in Facebook. We have forced everyone and maxed out everything at Facebook, which we all love, but so much so that we're missing the opportunity to be plugged into other platforms where our other members are. So I get calls every week from people who say, I don't have that Facebook, so tell me who I can watch. And I'm recommending to them where you can watch their stream on their website and where you can watch their stream on their YouTube page, because we've not taken the time. We got so excited with jumping on Facebook that we forgot that there's other parts of our church community that will never get on Facebook. They never coming over here. And we're missing the opportunity to pastor, minister, worship with them, and they're finding other places.
And the reality is, and I just want to really talk some demographic stuff. Younger people go to your YouTube demographic than your Facebook demographic, because Facebook is my age and older, into your 60s and 70s, even your 80s.
Right, we push the young people out.
Yeah, the young people have moved on. There's some IG live stuff, which is not an open platform, so I don't even want to go there. But that YouTube is so critical.
And that's where your search stuff is happening. So if I'm on there and I'm baking cookies and your sermon comes up next because I happen to be searching for something, it came up because it was related to other content that I've been watching, more times than not, I'm not turning away from it. It's already streaming on my TV. I'm going to check out this short, brief 10 minutes, and I might really dig in and end up following you so I can see other stuff that you're doing. So it's a missed opportunity over there at Facebook. I mean, at YouTube. I love Facebook. I think there's a missed opportunity to also make sure that we're repurposing content on YouTube. So if you're not going live there, you should be at least taking that snippet of service and editing it so that you could post it on YouTube, or post the whole thing. It's your choice, but repurpose the content.
So couple of quick things before we wrap up. Tell people about StreamYard. I probably put about 30 people on since you put me on, since I was on your show and you interviewed me. Tell them about StreamYard, and then also tell them how they get in contact with you, because not everybody's in Silicon Valley. Not everybody has capacity. And the one thing I see, a lot of people in Facebook advertising and different things are now church experts, and they have not interfaced with the Black church for almost 20 years. Worked with us. You've worked with my church on getting stuff out, and I could recommend what you do very highly.
Thank you.
So I just want you to talk a little bit about where you see us going, wrap it up, but also tell us, how do we get in contact with you as churches? Because I think there are churches that can take on a national level, that could take what you're doing and use your services to really expand out.
I appreciate that. And thanks again for the opportunity, Pastor Coloma. There are rare opportunities for me to be in Palo Alto. And when I go to Palo Alto, I feel like I need to be stuck here, and I got to put on heels and wear my stockings, and do I have a dress on and that kind of stuff. But that's the corporate stuff. I can always be at university and feel like I can just be myself. And so I'm so glad we were able to connect, and I thank you for this opportunity today. So sites like StreamYard, I've been playing around a little bit, and when I stumbled on StreamYard, I think I immediately thought that it was a great opportunity to create a simpler way for a conversation to happen. And then it's something that you can still grow into other things. So I think the way that you're using the graphics now are really powerful. I'm, as some stuff I'm being absolutely transparent about, I'm learning more about how I'm creating graphic overlays. So I don't have to use these squares. I might want to create other graphics and use them or include video sizzle, maybe some 3-second or 5-second transition if I'm going between guests. And so I think that there's a lot of customizable options in the paid version of StreamYard.
Always use the paid version.
Right. I get tired of seeing the little bird in the corner.
Can we take one quick moment?
Yes.
God is worth the subscription, everybody.
It's worth it. Please,
your ministry online should never depend on the free plan.
Yes.
Okay, I'm done.
Right. That's and there are things that are low and no cost tech. I would put this in the low category because you can do monthly. It doesn't mandate that you have a yearly subscription. So this is a low cost option. And for full transparency, I'm testing out BeLive, which is the competitor to StreamYard. And there's a whole lot of similarity there as well. And so both are about the same. I'm just trying to figure out which one has more glitches, but I'm still team StreamYard, and so it's worked out really well.
Okay, good.
So for folks that want to find me, they can check out Faith in the Bay. It's the website is there. You can email me at info@faithinthebay.com or my Gmail, dmdelane@gmail.com. When I think about all the things that I used to pay for when I first got started, I had an 877 number. I had all these other crazy things. And so now I don't have any problem giving out my cell phone number. Everybody else gives it out. I'm like, call me on my cell. Send me a text message.
Yeah.
510-563-7333. The number does not really, I don't know. The stuff that I paid for, I mean, I had a Ring Central line. I was paying for stuff and nobody was calling. Then people would call as soon as I canceled the service. Hey, call me on my cell phone, please. Thank you.
Just call on the phone. Just call on the cell phone. Give them the cell phone one more time.
510-563-7333. And final thought, I mean, I would totally encourage, I think as much as congregations are thinking about getting online, I think it's also a really smart time to be thinking about what kind of content and what tools do you need so that when you do return to the sanctuary or as you're out of the sanctuary, how are you creating other content? So make the investment, get yourself a nice camera that has a detachable lens because you're going to want to switch out lenses as your congregation is growing. Come on, sir. Where'd you get that?
Oh, we got 2 of them now. We film everything in 4K now. We invest.
I love it. Make the investment. Get yourself another tool that I think is great. And there's going to be a lot of tech that's going to go on sale. Get ready for that. And used equipment is also great. And so there's a great Bay Area resource called Borrow Lenses. I shoot a lot, and I can't afford all the lenses that I shoot with. I often will rent gear. But there's affordable gear right here in San Francisco across pretty close to San Francisco airport. But Borrow Lenses is powerful. And then they will sell used equipment. So let me tell you, get ready, because you can get lights, you can get lenses, you can get camera bodies, and it's great. But get yourself a gimbal. I think that when I started using a gimbal, content started to change. And so if you're just trying to change a little bit and walk through your sanctuary and do some fun things, you can get a gimbal now for under $150. You can get a gimbal for under $100 and start to create some smooth content and tap into the young people you have in your congregation. These young people are sitting in your congregation as a young person who was poured into, and I grew up in my church. I was in the tape ministry. I was running around with a camera because my grandmother gave me a palm quarter and my family really invested in me early. Utilize the young people in your congregation who feel disconnected. They are creating videos and tape and skateboarding outside and all their friends and all that kind of stuff. Ask them to just do something creative for your church. Ask them to come up with a 1-minute video and see what they develop. And you'll be surprised, but give them the opportunity. Now we have the freedom to be as creative as we want to. The sky is the limit, and we can go even further than that. So Thank you, Pastor Coloma, for the opportunity to chat.
Well, I'm going to have you back as we go through the summer, because I think we're going to have the discussion on the transition from all virtual to hybrid, and what the trends are and how do you create content and different things like that. So thank you again for being on the show with us. Thank you so much. Everybody, again, thank you so much for being with us on the Next Project Conversations. I cannot wait for next week. We've got my good friend, Ephraim Smith, one of the most amazing theological thinkers and preachers today, dealing with multicultural church, dealing with multiracial church, dealing with the history of the Black church. And he's going to talk a little bit on next Wednesday about the challenges moving forward as a church in a divided America. And then I'm so excited about this next Thursday. We're going to have a young lady who has led diversity and inclusion at a couple of major tech firms. She is really, really amazing in the human resources space. And she's going to talk a little bit about what does the job market look like for us moving forward? How does this new work from home paradigm, how does this shift really impact us? Again, with the Next Project Conversations, we're trying to be as holistic as possible and cover all spaces. So I'm excited. Cannot wait to see you next Wednesday, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you so much. God bless.